Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
Hey, that's that voice we like to hear. That means I get another week with my man Jacob Padilla. We're just here telling jokes off air. He and I are in the same boat. We're looking for vehicles, although for different reasons. I'm guilted into it. He's just smarter than me. So it's kind of like how the show goes. What's up, buddy?
Hey, yeah. Got a drive out to Grand Island on Saturday, which we'll get to in a bit here. But yeah, it's at the point where I either need to sink some money into my car or just swap it out, try to start over again. And
so I'm dying to know, just because of your personality, very savvy, fiscal savvy. Is there anything worse for you in your head than spending money on something that's going to depreciate?
it's not even that so much. I just don't want to go through the pain of having to do it, and especially because I've got like $2,400 left on my to pay off this one. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I was like, before this issue popped up, I was thinking, oh, maybe I should just pay it off and just be done with it and feel good. And then this thing pops up, and it's another $2,000 to.
So you're basically paying the difference to get it fixed?
Yeah. So
are you a believer in, so some people, Shane is probably this way. Shane likes to buy. I like to lease. Shane never wanted to. I don't think he enjoyed leasing because of mileage constraints and stuff, although there's ways to work about that. I never wanted to own an old car because I didn't want to have to put money into it. Is this the first major thing that you've had to do?
Yeah, kind of. So this is the previous, I inherited a car from my mom when I got my first car. And then the second one, just kind of a junker my uncle found for me. This is the first one that I've actually like paid and got a loan for and all that. And it was $25,000 maybe when I bought it. So it's a 2016. I got in 2018 maybe. It's not brand new, but hardly used when I got it. So that's probably the kind of sweet spot there. Not buying a brand new.
One thing you're going to figure out: the pandemic and car availability changed the game.
Yeah,
it's rough out there.
Used cars it's crazy.
Yeah.
It hasn't even come back to like the market's recalibrating. I tried to wait it out, but of course, as we're talking hoops, my son doing the walk with Max Coughlin talking hoops for Westside tells the free world that he's 17 and doesn't have his own car. So I feel like I'm being guilted into it.
You should be.
Should I? Because I didn't grow up like that. So I kind of parent how I grew up, but I kind of feel like, gosh, do we have to do
Look
this?
at it this way. Now you don't have to take them to all his workouts.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially with the young ones that you have to deal with already. Like it's really a gift for yourself.
And the cool thing about that, why I think you're spot on, is so he's healthy in the off season. You know, he had the bad back 2 years ago, and last year with the travel with the new ETG schedule, he didn't really train. This is going to be the first off seasons. We're going to stagger it. So we're starting the second week in February, even though second to last week in February. So in a week, even though the basketball season is still going, we're going to start his actual training for the upcoming season for football, even though he's going to play AAU basketball, which is the first off season he's ever done it. So he's kind of like a blank slate. So, and I don't want to be the guy. I'll oversee some of his workouts, but I definitely don't want to be taking him because he's going to do hoops, then school, then workout, then going back to practice. He's fully prepared. That's why I was glad he said in his whatever they did with the in-state recruiting, he's like, you know what? I'm going to train accordingly because you know his personality. So whatever, he's very task-oriented. So that part I'm excited about. To drive him, not so much. Not so much, JP, man. A heck of a week in basketball. And I feel like we know even less than we did a week ago outside of Bellevue West.
Well, another undefeated goes down. We down in Class D1, we're down to just 3 unbeaten teams left, including Donovan Trumbull, who scored a big win.
Yeah, so I'm of course interested in that one because that was against Central City. That I wanted to see in the tournament because I am Team Central City. And that one was at the Bison Dome.
Yeah. Donovan Trumbull now 20-0 after winning that one, 69-55. It was tied after the first quarter, and then second and third quarters, Donovan Trumbull just dominated there, doubled them up 32-16, and then held on through the fourth. And the thing about this Donovan Trumbull team is they don't have seniors. It's all juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. They're going to be here. They're going to be around for a while. So the rest of the class better get them now. And right now, nobody's been able to.
You know what? And it's interesting about that is talking to the Zickmans, obviously. Aiden's my guy from Central City. They got multiple ways that they can get you.
Yeah.
It's not just one singular thing. And that's a tough place to play.
Yeah.
And they went in there, and for 3 quarters, no problem.
Yeah. And we've talked about Jack Poppy before, freshman. Parker Volk is another freshman playing big minutes for them, had 16 in that game. Jaden Williams is a junior I saw at the Heartland Hoops Classic last year that I like, kind of a stuff the stat sheet type of guy. Had 9, 6, and 4 in that one. So it's just they got a lot of different pieces there that can contribute. And again, they'll all be back next year. So Donovan Trumbull, 20-0, and they've moved ahead of Freeman in the coaches poll, despite Freeman winning their conference tournament 32-29 on a game-winning 3 from Carter Roos over Auburn. And I was at that championship game last year. Auburn won it 28-21.
Everybody was doing
brutal.
Double takes because I was with a couple of basketball minds, and we were scrolling through trying to catch the scores, and we were like, wait a minute, overtime?
Yeah.
That was the total number of points, overtime?
Yep.
It didn't sound right, though, but you play Coach Weeks' coach team, and the way that Freeman likes to play, there's some potential to get that.
Yeah. Those two teams do not like scoring points against each other. I mean, earlier this season they played. I watched that one on TV. It was 30-29. Freeman won that one. So 28-21, 30-29, and 32-29 in overtime, the last 3 scores for that game. So those two teams do not like letting each other score. I mentioned the undefeated going down. That was Maywood Hayes Center, previous number 1 in Class D1. And to be fair, it looks like they were playing without Hayden Kramer, who's their senior leader there in that game. They lost 55-57 in overtime at Bertrand after beating Bertrand in their conference tournament the week before. But again, no Kramer. The team had 22 turnovers in that game and still lost by 2 in overtime. So pretty impressive that they were able to even make it that close. Kramer came back for their last 2 games, got back on track. He had 16-11 and then 30-12 in the next 2 games.
There's a good chance that he may make our shout out. Hey, or your shout out, which I always love listening to. Are you interested in the Johnson Brock Freeman game on Thursday? Because people tell me, I haven't seen him play yet, but I think Johnson Brock is what they call dangerous.
Well, so you've got Johnson Brock at 17-3 on Thursday, and then out in Grand Island, Heartland Hoops Classic, Central City.
Against Freeman.
Yeah, it's in there at 20-21. Freeman just that's a tough week coming up. They're definitely going to be well tested, which is probably good for them going into the postseason here, the stretch run right now. Face a couple of tougher matchups as they gear up for districts and all that to get ready for March.
Hey, so are you kind of like as a guy that I'm a little bit envious of sometimes without kids, are you kind of a proud papa watching all your alum who are coming off a couple of big weeks, man? You don't often take some time to lament, and you're not emotional and all that other stuff, but man, you got some guys that you coached, that you poured into. These guys are coming off some pretty good runs, man. You got to feel pretty good as a guy that's been emotionally and physically invested.
Yeah, it's been fun kind of following along these guys this year. And you mentioned you can't stay out on Grand Island because your daughter's senior day. It's tough for me kind of seeing all these like senior days pop up for these guys, and I'm not going to go to I would have liked to go to those, but just kind of the way the calendar plays out, just not in the cards. But I've been able to see all the guys that played for me play already this season. Hopefully get a few more chances here as we close this thing out. And
well, you got one tonight. You can Kill a couple birds with one stone.
That's probably where I'm heading tonight. I got to look at the other schedule and see what else is out there, but that's definitely one that looks.
Even with that, you're measured, right? It would be easy. You got Kevin Brown, you got Carter. It's just like you're like, oh, well, let me see what else is out there, just so I make sure that I'm equal opportunist.
What I tried not to do is see the same team play twice in a week, unless it's like the Metro tournament or state or anything like that. And obviously, I'm going to see Westside play on Saturday out on Grand Island. So that's the one kind of thing that gives me pause,
you'll be there anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And I've already in a little different. Like I just kind of recap all the games versus like I kind of do 5 thoughts, just offer analysis. It's hard coming up with like 10 separate thoughts, like when you're seeing a team play twice in 1 week. But so yeah, that'll probably be where I end up. I'm seeing Lincoln East because I've only seen East play once in person. I watched another 1 or 2 on video, but good to circle back and see them because I haven't seen them play in a while.
Let me throw you a curveball since we started outside of Class A. Let's go to B, right? We usually like to kind of sometimes we'll start in A and work our way down. How impressive for you was what Bennington was able to do? Because in my sphere of influence, obviously I'm friends with a lot of coaches. We talk a lot of hoops. That one was one of all the games. It was weird how Bennington over North stuck out in terms of what happened last week.
64-63 in overtime. Bennington at Omaha North.
Tough place to play.
And that's coming off a 21-point loss against Scott, which, again, is pretty clear above everybody else in B because Bennington lost by 21 and still climbed up to number 2 in the coaches poll because of that win over North. So obviously Scott took those 2 Class A losses, but
jump Platteview.
Yeah. Which both those had a tough week. But yeah, Bennington,
we'll get to that.
In North, more impressive is the fact that they fell behind 26-15 after 1 on the road, rallied to go win that thing in overtime. That shows some real resiliency from that Bennington team. And it was, they bounced back 15-5 in the second quarter, held North at 5 points in a quarter. And then it was back and forth the rest of the way. And Trey Bird, 24 points after Scott limited him to just 3 earlier in the week, came up with 24 in that one. Gunnar Lim added 14. And they
how big an X factor is he though?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like those are the 2 guys that are going to be the leading scorers more often than not. Lim's kind of made that leap to being that guy, whereas Isaac Connor is kind of more of the glue guy now, defender, cleaning glass.
Awful tough too. Does some serious dirty work. Yeah. I don't know if it's the football thing, if it's his frame, if it's the fact that he's been in that gym 1,000 times when he used to play with T&E. They practiced at North, so there's some familiarity there. But I was the way and the resolve that they showed, that one caught me off guard in terms of the comeback.
Yeah, so Bennington, like heading into the year, we thought they'd be right up near the top. Obviously got to a slow start. Couple missteps here and there, but they've kind of rounded into shape now and again, just in terms of a well-balanced team, a deep team. They've got the size and Dylan Cassard who can match up with, give some teams problems if you don't have a true big. They can go smaller, bring a couple guards off the bench, slide Connor down to the 5 and attack you that way. They've got a couple backup bigs that they could choose if they want to stay big. So they've got a few different ways they can play. So Bennington right there, 13-6, sitting there at number 2. I mean, it was 12-12 after the first quarter against Scott in that first game. And then Scott just outscored him 36-20 in the middle 2 quarters. And then it was ball game at that point. But Bennington, looking strong there. You mentioned Crete, jumped ahead of Crete, who took care of business against Schuyler, but then lost at Wahoo. Wahoo is on a roll right now. Wahoo won that 76-61 despite Crete putting up 23 points, leading 23-14 after the first quarter. And then again, those middle 2 quarters, kind of same story, 48-25. Wahoo top 20 in both the second and the third quarter. And Marcus Glock was on fire in that game and finished with 27.
Streaky.
Really efficient.
He's become very, very streaky. When he's comfortable and you don't touch or get him off his spot, you let him settle in. He's a handful. He can use both hands, contrary to popular belief. People think he's a little left-hand dominant. He's not. He's starting to grow physically. He's playing with a little bit more strength. If you don't disrupt him early, you're going to be in for a long night, because when he gets it going, he can be extremely efficient.
Yeah. Well, and Wahoo as a team shot 11 of 23 from three and almost 60% from the field in that game. They went 3-0 last week. They took care of Logan View, Scribner Snyder, and then they also another impressive win against Beatrice. That one was 46-38, so a very different style of game. They shot 1 of 17 from three against Logan View and 5 of 17 against Beatrice. So they picked the right game to have their great shooting game, but found a way to win all three games and jump ahead of the other undefeated team, Ogalalus, and they're at 21-0. Who nice win against McCook, won by 15 last week, won by 17 against Broken Bow. They've got Mitchell on Friday. It's looking like Ogallala and Donovan Trumbull both have a chance to get through the regular season unbeaten based on their remaining games. So that's real strong at the top in Class C1 again, but which evidenced by Wahoo winning by 15 against the number 3 team in Class B. And Wahoo also beat Platteview the week before, as we talked about, and Platteview drops down to 4 after a loss at Ralston on Thursday, I believe it was.
And you saw that one, right?
I did not. I was there Friday.
We watched that one. And so, full disclosure, we talked about this was during NEB preps. This is why we like when you guys and gals listen to the show, because you're going to get some insight, because we're just junkies, right? So we kind of wondered, right? Oh, Connor Milliken wasn't really putting it on the deck. It was different. And he still scored 20-some-odd points.
24 and 10.
Right. You remind me of his dad, who says, everybody says Connor was quiet, but he still went 24 and 10. Yeah. Right, but he wasn't really putting it on the deck. He's not explosive. He's got some knee issues that he's kind of working through, and they're going to shut him down for a while.
Against Hastings.
Yeah, they're shutting him down for a while. I think they're going to try to give Grand Island a go. We'll see. He's got some fantastic trainers, and having said that, but we kind of wondered what was going on. He's got a little meniscus, just a little sprain, and so with Platteview, I think they're trying to buy themselves some time, because big picture, JP,
healthy for the postseason, that's all that matters.
Right? And you want to be on the opposite side of Scott.
Yes, that's the other deal.
So we've seen this before, but here's what's dangerous with the sub-districts. There is no wild card.
That's exactly
so
right.
It is being healthy is first and foremost. Win your district, because you're not going to backdoor that thing.
No.
You're just not. And I think you have to be smart, which is why Platteview will take their time.
Yeah. And shout out, that's a good win for Ralston. Cooper Helms game-winning layup at the buzzer. Plattview's up pressing. Ralston broke the press. Deacon Courtney made the pass ahead, and Helms scored at the buzzer to win that thing. And Courtney finished with 19 and 9. He's having a really good season for them. 6'7" sophomore. He's a name to watch out for moving forward. He's got 7 double-doubles, I think, because he had one on Friday against Roncalli. At 19 and 14 in that game I had him with. So really good win for Ralston there. They've got wins over Ralston, over Elkhorn, Beatrice, and now Platteview, all ranked teams when they beat them in a losing record. So that's a tough team to figure out, but when they're at their best, they're tough out. So Platteview falls to 4. They're 16 and 4 now. But like you said, the most important thing is getting Milliken healthy. They've got DC West on Thursday, and then playing out in Grand Island in the Heartland Hoops Classic on Saturday against Grand Island, actually, one of the host teams out there. So not a ton of shakeup in the rest of B. York's still at 5. Roncalli is at 6. Elkhorn is at 7. They didn't play last week. Beatrice is at 8. Obviously had that loss to Wahoo, but they did beat Norris by 17 before that. Scottsbluff and sitting there at 9 at 13 and 7. two close wins. They won at Alliance by 2. They won at Sydney by 4. They've got North Platte on Thursday and then McCook on Friday. So fairly tough week for them. And then Mount Michael kind of rounding things out there at 10, who shout out to Kyle Oldehef, sophomore there. Had a really good week for them. Teams really locked in. Harrison Long shot wasn't falling, but they found a way to have some success. They went 1-2, but they beat Gross. Oldehef had 17 and 13 in that game. So Mount Michael's got to figure out some alternative scoring outside of Long and Oldehef moving forward. Some of the other guys, they shot very poorly from 3 last week, but still hanging in there at number 10.
When you're taking a look at, as we jump to Class A, and I'm just looking it up here, do you know less during the week of February 7th about 3 through 10 than you did in January, on January 7th? When it comes through 3 through 10 in Class A?
Yep, it's and every week so
like what is going on?
Creighton Prep obviously got their shot at Bell West, who again the last the third undefeated team remaining there at 19-0. They got smacked by Bellevue West, lost that one 70-40, and then bounced back and beat Lincoln Southeast by 5. So coaches kept them there at number 3, behind Bellevue West and Gretna at number 2. Gretna had a tough week. I was there on Saturday as they just barely held on against Lincoln North Star, who tough team to figure out. Again, they're sitting there at number 10.
You know what I think it is with them? Offensive inefficiency is ultimately their undoing. Yeah. It just the decision making is too haphazard for them, I think, in crunch time, at least right now.
No, 100%. I kind of felt the same way when I watched them play against Kearney. Just some of the shot selection, especially early on, ended up being a competitive game. But in this one, credit to Coach Lee Steinbrook and what he's done defensively. They're taking advantage of their size, constantly shifting zones. They're working in 2-3 different zones, playing a little bit of man. Just making it really tough to score inside against them. And then they close out with their length and make it tough for those threes too. So they're kind of, they are not easy to score on. And it was back and forth with Gretna the whole way. And then Lazarick Houston hit 2 threes in the fourth quarter, giving them the chance.
How about Lazarick? How about how he's really starting to come along? I put him early on, and you could slap my hand. You're like, come on, DB, you're a little biased. Remember, I put Lazarick Houston in the same boat as BJ with those incoming freshmen a year ago. BJ got off to the faster start at Southeast because he was playing more than Lazarick was. But, not only are they good friends, they're right there in terms of their upward ascent and similar styles of play. Although Lazarick is turning into he's getting a lot better with decision making.
Yeah. And he was finished with 12 points in that game, 5 of 10. He's a guy that can be a volume shooter. Like, he has no problem getting shots up. He was not that against Gretna,
which is when he's at his best.
He barely shot the ball in the first half, but then down the stretch, he was the guy that stepped up, knocked down those 2 big threes. He's the one that got a look at the buzzer, kind of a leaning off movement 3. Couldn't get it to go. That would have won it for them. But he was also the reason they had a chance to win that game there in the fourth quarter. So North Star hanging in there at 13-6 after beating Pius 61-55 on Friday. So Pius, after their hot streak, scoring that big win against Scott, they had a rough week last week. They did win at Kearney. Good win for them. Jackson Kessler came alive at 17 in that one. But Trayson Anderson at 10 points, 16 boards, 4 assists, 4 blocks, I think, or 4 steals rather. But after that, they lost 55-61 against North Star, like I said, and then rough outing against Bellevue West, lost at 73-49. 23 turnovers and 3 of 15 from 3 in that game. So again, that Bellevue West defense, they are so difficult to score on. So Pius sitting there at 9 at 13-7 after a 1-2 week. North Star at 10 at 13-6. Southeast is at 7 at 12-7. They extended their winning streak to 7 with a win at Norfolk, and then they suffered that loss to Prep, which it was tied going into the fourth quarter, and then Prep just made the plays down the stretch to win it. Southeast only took 5 free throws in the game and only hit 5 threes, so just tough to win that math battle when that's the case. But they've got a tough week this week, that's for sure. They go to Bellevue West on tonight as we record this on Tuesday, and they face Kearney on Friday. So those are the kind of the 3 Lincoln teams that have been jumbling around. Lincoln High fell out. They've had a couple of tough losses recently. And then Lincoln East at 5, still sitting there at the top of the pack. They'll
get a test
Lincoln,
tonight.
14-4 at Westside Tuesday, at Pius Friday. So again, a chance. Any win in Lincoln is big for those teams who continues to beat each other up. Like if you can stabilize it and score that'd be good for East. But they won at Grand Island, they won against Norfolk, and they won against Omaha Northwest last week. So not a challenging week, but the impressive part there is the good sign for them moving forward is they're starting to get a little bit more balanced contributions offensively. They're starting to get a few other guys, a guy off the bench here and there, a couple of those other starters outside of the 2 Carters that are scoring points for them. So if they get a more balanced team to go with Templemeyer and Mick, who can go off at any time, now suddenly they're a more complete team and the more dangerous as we head into the stretch run of the season there.
So first got to watch a team we talked about last week, and they actually moved up in the rankings. Very competitive week for Elkhorn South, and then they played Westside on Friday and turned around and beat Central in a grudger on Saturday.
Yeah.
Do we have an answer yet? Because I think I do, on why they're so difficult to play against. It's almost never easy, right? I mean, Westside got out, and Westside won that game, I feel, fairly comfortably, but Elkhorn South stayed in it. They lost to Bellevue West in bad fashion, but we're in it early. Outside of that, these guys, they're a headache.
Well, it was 73-66 against Westside, and that's with Elkhorn South missing 8 of their 13 free throws.
That way that they got back into that one, in my opinion, was more about Westside in terms of the subbing and style of play versus Elkhorn South, except for Elkhorn South played much harder, longer than Westside did. Elkhorn South was relentless. Alec Noonan was getting dogged all night. They were going back and forth. He kept playing. Warner had a 5th foul that wasn't even a 5th foul. He was shooting it well up
19, hit 5 threes.
Listen, so I looked at my buddy Tom Thompson was sitting next to me. Great shooter, great scorer, right? Like, he was UNO's all-time leading scorer until Mitch Albers came along. Tom Thompson can put the biscuit in the basket. He looked at me. He's 2 seats down, and he goes, I said, oh, yeah, I've seen him do this to a lot of teams for a long time. Evan Warner can flat out shoot the basketball. Yeah. And you know what he did against Westside? He was putting the ball on the deck a couple of times, just enough to make you uncomfortable where you couldn't just lock in and smother him, right? He gets the 5th foul. The lead had kind of ballooned. Westside, the fans it was chippy. It was a nasty kind of game. Hornbacher played well. Werner was tough. I figured it out. Not only are they well coached, they play hard. They never, ever, ever look at the scoreboard.
And that's what they have to do. And they knew that coming in because of their personnel. They had 5 seniors that have, and a couple like Warner and Stone and Hornbacher. They suited varsity. They didn't play much last year. They playing spot minutes. So really, Moeller, Swan, and Noonan were the only 2 guys that played
good athlete,
real minutes. But they knew those 5 guys were the only guys with any kind of varsity experience coming into the season. And they were going to try to find some ways to get a little bit of help. But they knew they were going to have to grind out games. Again, playing 5 out, the undersized Hornbachers are 5.
He's a tough kid. People want to be mad. It's getting a little chippy, push and shove. That stuff doesn't bother me, right? Yeah. Because that's how that stuff doesn't bother me one bit. And for them to turn around, JP, and play the game that they played against Central in that style after leaving it on the field or the court the night before, I'm all in.
Yeah, and from personal experience, I know Gavin's really good at getting in other kids' heads. He's really good at getting other teams to commit technicals. Yeah. He kind of goes right up to that borderline. Doesn't
what's funny?
Get real dirty.
You know what's funny? This how you know. You won't get this if you know, right? What do the kids say? IYK, YK. If you know. Driving home Friday. What does Caleb say? Dad, I almost got the first technical I've ever gotten in basketball. Why? Oh, it was Hornbacher. Yeah. That is hilarious. Yeah. I think there were 2 or 3 technicals called in that game. 2 were offsetting. But I would not have guessed, especially because we had talked to Coach Chubbuck Jr. from Central Friday, and they were well rested. They had a week off. I wouldn't have guessed that Elkhorn South, because they don't play a ton of guys, that they would have enough in the tank emotionally. And half of Central's team was at the Westside Elkhorn South game. I did not expect that outcome.
69-68 at Central. Warner again 5 of 7 from 3, so he can 10 of 14 in his 2 games last week. He had kind of hit a little rough patch, but last week turned it back on. He's never going to stop shooting. So good week for him. And then Noonan again had a good game, 16 after 18 against Westside. I think difference was Hornbacher though. Boxer had him 13 points, 5 of 5 shooting, hit 3 threes, 7 boards. First double-digit scoring game of his varsity career.
I think the effects of the cast are long gone.
And that's the thing. He missed a big chunk of the season, so it's good to see him back out there and make a big impact. And they needed every single one of those points in a 1-point win for a guy that typically he's more of the glue guy. He'll defend their bigs as a 6'3", kind of undersized forward. He'll go scrap for rebounds. Again, get in other teams' heads, but you get offensive contributions on top of that. And that's how you score a big win like that for the Storm. We're 11-6 now. And they've got Burke and Millard West this week.
Let me ask you a quick question before we do the highlights. Of the but teams, we're in basketball circles all the time. But. I brought them up last week, Millard North. Still 16-2, still keep winning. They get a lot of buts. But the team ranked above them, Creighton Prep. They're not this, they're not this, they're not that. But. Who do you feel is a safer choice in terms of who you know more about, Creighton Prep or Millard North?
Ask me after this week.
Isn't it crazy?
Because Millard North has their chance to show that, hey, we're right there. They host Gretna on Friday.
That's Friday, yeah.
Gretna is still sitting there 15-2, the number 2 team. They beat Bryan last week in addition to that close win against North Star. Millard North only had 1 game last week, took care of business. They didn't have a great – they went 9-20 from the free throw line in that game. Didn't really Jacob Martin led them in 12 with 12 points. Derek Rollins didn't have a great game, but that
was a tough environment.
Yeah,
it was packed. Coach Locum, all the students were wearing red. Lost his son, which was tragic. That environment, that was a hornet's nest at Millard South. Now they're not super capable. I think to go out and get that,
down, like losing Cooper, of their
but that environment was that was a tough environment.
So we'll see how that Millard North Gretna game goes.
I worry about Millard North's mental toughness in that one because Gretna plays a certain way. They played it a long time, and you have to hang in there. You have to hang in there against Gretna.
Yeah. The other big, so we'll see what happens after that. Millard North, again, sitting there at 16-2. They've taken care of business for the most part.
That's a gaudy record for a team that barely gets talked about.
The out-of-state loss, so 16-3 overall. But it's and they've got a lot of pieces. It's just consistently, can they put it together down the stretch? Can they get multiple guys playing well together? But the one other result, we kind of skipped over it though. West Side went 2-0 because they smacked Lincoln Southwest 86-57.
Oh yeah.
At 31-7 in the second quarter. Just shot lights out. Caleb went 4 for 4 from 3 at 16. Tate Oddbody went 5 of 9 from 3, had 23. They're figuring
it out on offense.
Kevin Stubblefield got 15. Kevin Brown got 10. So again, you got all those guys contributing together, and CJ Mitchell kind of left the game with an injury early on. Good to see him bounce back and play later in the week. But so they did all that without Mitchell in the lineup. And Southwest is a team that's kind of dealing with some things now. They were shorthanded.
No Bon Boone, no Bon and no Frager.
Yeah. So short a couple of their key players there. And they just kind of crumbled the first game without those guys. They got off to a good start. Like the first quarter, I watched that on YouTube. The first quarter was fun, back and forth. Southwest had the lead early, and then they just could not get anything to go their way.
I think once Southwest lost the ability to get baskets from Chuck Love, who, I mean, and I never talk about him just because he's my son, but I think he clearly is the best on the ball defender, if not the Metro, maybe the state, right? And he makes it very hard on those guys. He made it hard on Love. He made it hard on Noonan. And I think eventually, without Chuck playing very much in the fourth quarter, I wonder if that was by design, where Coach Baugh just was maybe thinking, hey, you know what? Like, I don't like the shot selection. I think you made it. Maybe not personal is not the word, because Chuck's not that kind of kid, but it just seemed like they were out of sorts offensively because they lost their composure. And I actually think, and you got to help me with this, it seems like Helms should be more of an integral role for them. Am I crazy?
No, I've never quite figured out. For some reason, he just has
He shows you flashes.
Exactly.
I watched him in warm-ups. He had a couple of good buckets early. He's bouncy. He can shoot it.
And seeing he's capable during the summer, just for whatever reason, he's never really found a way to consistently put up the numbers offensively within Southwest system. Some guys just fit other styles better,
he looks fantastic.
But yeah, that's like, if Southwest is going to make a run, he's got to step up. In addition to, obviously, Love's had a really good season. Ryland Smith, is a veteran there. They need Helms to give them a little bit more, and he's capable of it. That's the thing. Like, we've got to see it. They got to find a way to make him a more integral part, like you said, especially now as they're trying to figure out moving forward with
where they're going to go personnel-wise,
and all that type of thing. So I think definitely he is a key to Southwest kind of riding the ship here down the stretch of the season, hopefully making a run once we head into the post.
Shane, I got to sneak in one more before he gives his shout-outs. Do we learn, and we talked about it early with the Lincoln matchups in the round robin, do you feel comfortable making a distinction in Lincoln? Like, if East is, and they'll have their chance tonight, North Star with the close one over Pius, we still like Pius's upside?
Probably not as much as the others. I got to see a little bit
more limited offensively.
The supporting cast. They scored that win against Scott largely just because of a really hot 3-point shooting game, and I don't necessarily know if I've seen that from them consistently. So it's hard to trust that. So that's kind of got to see a little bit more from them before I'm ready to. I think East has shown themselves, and the Pius will get their chance to prove me wrong this weekend. They play East. So I'm going to stick with two guys for the shout outs this week, because one, Gearing Senior, Maxwell Greeley, 50 burger, first 50-point game of the season. 50 points on 19 of 30 shooting, 5 of 10 from 3, 7 of 10 from the free throw line. So scoring every way possible. 4 boards, 3 assists, 7 steals against Torrington in a win there. They lost at Sydney, but wasn't his fault. He put up 29 on 10 of 16 shooting, 3 of 4 from 3, 6 of 8 from the free throw line, 3 boards, 2 assists, and 3 steals. And then closed out the week with 24 points, 9 of 16 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3 3 of 4 from the foul line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 steals against Chase County. 103 points on 38 of 62 shooting, including 11 of 20 from 3 and 16 of 22 from the free throw line in 3 games. That is a week.
It's a season for some people.
Yeah. And then Corian Gallatin, again, Fremont freshman.
Talented.
34 points, 11 and 19 from the field, 10 of 17 from 3. Hit both his free throws and also dished out 9 assists in a 13-point win at Omaha South. So pretty darn impressive for a freshman to shoot like that.
Crafty, undersized too, some length out there.
And leave you with this: the schedule out in Grand Island this week, Heartland Hoops Classic. It's fun every year. Love this event. Freeman against Central City, Platteview against Grand Island, Wahoo against North Platte, Gordon Rushville, Jace Nelson, big time performer for them, taking on the host Grand Island Central Catholic. And then we have the kind of the main events there. Your West Side Warriors taking on Real Salt Lake Academy. They've got
a lot of length.
Yeah, they've got some players there. JJ Mandequit's their leading scorer. And they're young. All their best players outside of their big guy are sophomores and freshmen. So the 6'10", 6'9", 6'10" forward that has a Southern Utah offer. The other guys are still little early in the career, and they shoot the ball really well. They shoot 38% from 3 as a season on the season from what I was able to see. So got to guard the 3-point line. Then Bishop Walsh out of Cumberland, Maryland, is taking on Bellevue West. Bishop Walsh is kind of having a rough season. They play out in the NIBC, which is the elite of the elite.
Yeah, it is a gauntlet
academy
out there.
So even the worst.
We usually see the conglomerate of that league playing in the AAU circuit.
Yeah. They're led by Mike Williams, 6'2" shooting guard, committed to LSU. Manuel Okatondo has got a Rutgers offer, 6'8" kind of wing forward there. And then Josiah Kennedy is a freshman guard, has 3-4 Division I offers, high major offers already as a freshman, transferred in for them. So that's what you're going to see from Bishop Walsh. And then Huntington Prep against Sunrise Christian Academy as a nightcap at 8 o'clock.
Showstopper.
Yeah, Sunrise is loaded every single year. Huntington Prep, another one of those elite basketball schools in the country. So
Sunrise might be tops by the time it's all said and done.
Should be a fun day. I will be out there. You'll be out there for part of it. Got to head back. But we will have you covered next week with the highlights from that.
You got it. That's another week in Nebraska Preps postgame. It's arguably my favorite segment. No disrespect to my regular morning show partner, but I don't get to see JP every day. Love him. You should too. Give us a follow. Don't you dare miss us next week.